Week 3 is really underway now, considering it's almost over. We've got the Sunday night game going now. That one's yet to be determined, but I would like to discuss the Bills and the Washington football team today and just a little bit more of what we think of each of these teams after the game. So, you can start wherever you want to with this one because I think we learned a lot today.
Um, it seems like the Bills finally have it figured out. It seems that way. It seems that way. Um, Very slow starts the first two games of the season for the Bills, but then they go up against a football team's defense who, at least in my mind, is the best defense that they've played against some good defenses, but Pittsburgh's, Miami's, and now theirs. I thought theirs was the best defense we'd be going, with the exception of like some inexperience and youth in the secondary. But besides that, I think like their front seven is the best. They have Landon Collins. Uh, they have Kyle Fuller. It it's a decent unit, and they just got torched today. So I'm kind of reevaluating my opinion on Washington's defense now after this game.
I'm just happy to see. Yeah, no, I mean, after last week with what the Giants did to them, it was kind of a question mark, and I would say I was questioning it before this week. I think this week may reiterate it a little bit more,
Hmm.
but Josh Allen actually looked to be back to his form of last season. However, Washington must have not watched any film from the first 2 weeks of the
Oh
season
yeah.
because
Hmm.
they were not doing the stuff that Miami and Pittsburgh saw great success against us with on the defensive side of the ball. So that was really weird that they just chose not to implement anything anyone else did and just try to still run their scheme and let Josh Allen pick them apart. But with that being said, I mean, credit to the Bills for doing well with what they had to go against, but it really didn't make a lot of sense to me why they did that.
Hmm.
But as for where this team sits now, I feel like after watching them today, whereas all offseason we were talking about how at least I was saying that I probably had them as my favorite for the NFC East. I
Hmm.
don't know if I believe that anymore, and I feel like the Cowboys may actually have a decent advantage now in terms of what team I think is the best in that division.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, it's funny just how much crap this offseason I gave Kirk Cousins. But if you were to put Kirk Cousins on the football team, I don't think you have like these uh like you're not feeling that way. At least like yeah, they don't have a quarterback is what I'm trying to say. Taylor Heineke is serviceable. He can work his way downfield, but if you give him any exotic look that is not like a vanilla defense, which the Bills base is in nickel, which is kind of like that's where the league is moving, but not every team has, especially not the Giants. The Giants don't do anything like crazy like that. I wouldn't expect them to.
The Giants were one of the heaviest nickel teams in the league last year.
Okay, okay. Well, still, the Bills can create more pressure, and they ran a lot of stints today too on the D line, which is something I noticed, especially when they were trying to get the safety against them. And Taylor Heineke just he would see that, and I mean he evades pressure in the pocket very well. He was worming his way out of there and getting out and breaking off some good runs, reminiscent of the Vanilla Vic playoff game. But he uh he also had some pretty bad reads, like the one pick to or the interception to Jordan Poyer. He just stared him down, and Poyer was reading that all day as soon as he looked his way.
He wasn't staring him down because if he stirred, I don't know.
No, he
There's
wasn't staring him
there's
down. Poyer knew that the right side of the field was covered, and as soon as he went through his progressions there, the only other option he had was to his left to I think that was Sims was on his left, and Poyer was going to jump that right away. And
yeah.
I mean that's not really Heineke's fault, but it's just I mean I think a better quarterback would try to just throw the ball away or take off.
No, I mean, I don't feel like it's. I talked about all off season how I thought like his teammates would be able to help him, and even on that play, I'll say that was generally his fault. But he was not staring down that receiver either. because if he was, he would have thrown it earlier to him because he broke open way earlier than that. And the reason that Poyer was able to make a play on that ball is because he threw it so late. When he had a period between where it got transferred between Poyer and Tremaine Edmonds. Because, you can pick on Tremaine Edmonds all day in terms of the passing game, really, still, even though it's his third year now, he still gets beat. But I mean, even guys that like
Just fourth.
my bad. I'm sorry, you're right. Um, he's been in the league for 3 years. I should have said.
But he's 23. So
Yeah, I know. But even then, like there were plenty of opportunities today on the offensive side of the ball where his teammates just were not helping him. I mean, obviously the long Antonio Gibson one, not really talking about the running backs. I guess that's what I should say. I feel like the running backs generally did their job, and I don't want to put too much on the O-line, even though you seem to think differently than me, because they didn't allow a sack until the fourth quarter of the game. So
no, they didn't. I'm not saying it's just the pressure that he was faced against. I don't know, maybe they didn't see it on the broadcast, but especially in the one safety scenario, just when it was close to me when I was there at the game, they were running a lot of stints with Ed Oliver, which was weird because I haven't seen them do much of that. And he wasn't like he was pushing the center back. That's what the pressure was. It wasn't Ed Oliver getting in his face. It was just closing the pocket in on him, and he was worming his way out. I'm not gonna hate on him for that because he was more elusive in the pocket than Josh Allen was today.
Okay, but what I'm really getting back to here is the fact that like there's routes where they're the
Oh no,
Bills.
Cam Sims can't catch. I know
Well,
what you mean.
that's not what I was gonna say. I mean, yes, that's also part of the reason that I can say that this team did not help him. Like the receivers generally didn't make too many tough catches and that type of thing. But even guys like Adam Humphries, who consider like a vet player, he's been around for a long time. He has an opportunity to go sit up and curl into a zone where it should have been an easy completion for a first down at one point. And instead of running up and curling about 5 yards away from a defender each side of him, and then being able to have Heineke hit him right in between him, he runs up in this like 10-yard gap, and he only gets like a yard away from Tremaine Edmonds. He basically runs his route straight up next to Tremaine Edmonds. It's obvious that Heineke is waiting for him to break, and then when he breaks, he even tries to put it away from Tremaine Edmonds. He tries to put the ball away from Tremaine Edmonds, but Humphries just ran the route too close to him. So I'm still not ready to say anything bad about Heineke. Honestly, I thought he still played well today. I just think it's the fact that if you let up like 43 points, it's pretty hard to win if you're not getting help on your offense. And that's kind of scary from my perspective, talking about the Washington football team again, because that is what I thought would change this offseason. I thought the additions they made it, like the receiver position, would allow them to not have to feel like, oh, geez, these guys are screwing things up. But yes, back to drop passes and silly mistakes like I just described there. When they go up against good teams that are able to put up a lot of points on the board, even though I still think their defense is pretty good, they're just having some early season struggles. That's going to be hard no matter how far they get into the season, even if their defense starts to heat up a bit, because of the fact that they are going to need these receivers to eventually go out and make some more difficult plays and not just be really, really performing even below average with some of the stuff they've been doing.
And I mean, yeah, you can. I mean, De'Ami Brown, he had a bad drop too. But Curtis Samuel still has not played a snap for them, and he was like their big offensive addition. And I mean, Terry McLaurin had some good plays, but for the rest of the game, he was really shut down when Tre'Davious White lined up against him. And he is their biggest playmaker. And if you can have a corner that can just like keep him to like under 75 yards, it's going to be a tough day for that offense because that they basically run through Terry McLaurin. And I mean, he's the one guy that can really make tough catches. And if you're just blanketing him, not even giving him a chance to do that, then that offense is going to sputter, which it did.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, he's definitely like the focal point in terms of the pass game, and that's basically what the Bills defense was able to do. against them. I mean, wrapping around now again to the Bills though, even though we've been waiting for the Josh Allen coming out game for this season, which it seemingly we got today, and
Hmm.
hoping that he can continue that as Bills fans. Uh, the defense has still looked great. They allowed 21 today that really shouldn't be 21 because, they got an extra drive. 21 or 24. I'm sorry. I'm forgetting. It was a 21.
21.
21. Okay. Just making sure they didn't tack on a field goal late at the end. But yeah, they got that extra one off the wild kickoff. If you haven't seen the just absolutely lovely
I've never
kickoff
seen
that
anything like that.
you can't even do that on purpose. That's so ridiculously lucky that it's insane. Washington got really lucky, recovered their own kickoff about 20 yards from the end zone, and then scored a touchdown on that drive. If that doesn't happen, the Bills probably don't even allow 20 points today. And I'm really surprised to say that I've been really proud of our defense through 3 weeks,
Hmm.
which I was really not expecting to be able to say at this point because uh,
No.
even though we haven't played any teams with great offenses, I really wasn't expecting us to look as good as I think we have looked and play as well as a group as I think we have looked. And that's also without really getting too exotic in what
Hmm.
we've been doing. I just feel like
Yeah.
last year when we were in like pretty base looking packages or base coverages without really blitzing or doing anything special like that, teams were generally able to pick us apart or if not run the ball well against us. And this year it seems like we're at least holding teams back even if we're just in base sets, which is nice to see.
Yeah. Everything's really clicking now. If Josh Allen can consistently play like this, with the defense playing the way that it has, again, something that I did not expect at all. I was expecting them to just be like how the unit has been or how it was last season. It was just like serviceable. It's like, yeah, this defense isn't gonna lose us a game, maybe. Um, but yeah, they're really stepping up. Run defense and pass defense is great. And just swinging that around too with everything clicking, the run game for the Bills has gotten a lot more efficient.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. And I don't want like Bills fans to hear that just be like, we need to run the ball more. No, that's not what efficient means. You don't need to run the ball more for it to be efficient. Just have every handoff get like 6 yards when you run like 7, 8 times a game. That's run efficiency, and that's what you want. That helps a lot.
Yeah. No, and that's basically my concern from the past is we would just get way too into the idea of like we need to run the ball and that's what I was
Mhm.
scared of. But now, whereas I think last season I was the biggest preacher of like air raid, don't even try to run the ball last season at all, um, type situations. No, with how the offense is clicking right now, no, I'm much more okay with us mixing in the run. I still don't think we need to be
Mhm.
like a 50-50 type
No.
team because, I still think throwing the ball just in the NFL nowadays is you get way too much out of it to want to run the ball a ton
Mhm.
unless you're going to put your whole scheme towards it like Baltimore or something. But with that being said, if we had a day where we ran the ball like 35% of the time, which is a lot for a team like the Bills, I would not
Mhm.
be too upset with that if I thought it called for it and we were still able to run the ball efficiently. Which, like last year, if you said that we ran the ball 35% of the time in any game and it wasn't just because we did it the whole fourth quarter or something, I would have said,
Mhm.
okay, how much did we lose that game by?
Yeah. It's giving me a lot of hope that if we go up against a team that has a great secondary but no one really up front, that we could just consistently hand the ball and run it through the teeth of that defense without having like Josh Allen throw it 50 times against an elite secondary, hoping that I mean that was on display a little bit against Miami, with where the secondary's really good and the front seven not so much. Uh, but yeah, the offense looks great now where it's just like we don't need Josh throwing it 55 5+ ish times a game. You could keep it at like the 35 to 40-ish and then still get the runs, the efficient runs in there. I'm still like, if there comes a game where it's like we're just slamming Singletary and Moss into the line for 2 yard gains, just get rid of that.
2 yard may be like a little overly. If we're talking about the Bills of the past, 2 yard gains may be something we would like if we were slamming them into the line. Because I mean, I know there were plenty of plays that got 0 yards on run plays last year for us,
Yeah, you're right.
if not lost yards.
Mhm.
And then I think really the last thing from this game that I just want to point out that was nice to finally see is really like with the fact that I said Josh Allen got going, felt good about what he was doing today.
Mhm.
Really what I talked about before the week 1 game against Pittsburgh of just, hey, can we just throw some short passes consistently and start hitting on these?
Yes.
Because Josh was just missing all those basically the first 2 weeks of the season. Today, I don't think, I think by the end of the game it may have dropped a little because basically when he was throwing towards the end of the game he was getting a little more aggressive. But he was at
Mhm.
one point in the game where it was like we already had a handed lead in the game. He was near like 80% completion percentage, which is
Yeah.
wonderful, absolutely amazing. And it just comes back down to the fact of the past 2 weeks he wasn't hitting like these easy short hitches and just underneath crossing routes that we'd have open that he was just missing for whatever reason the past few weeks, and he actually started hitting those today, and that obviously makes the offense look a lot better.
Mhm.
I just was really happy to see that aspect of the offense clicking again.
Yeah. I mean, at the start of the game, the Bills got the ball first, and they went 3-and-out, right? Just trying to, but like the last play of that 3-and-out was a dump off to Singletary that was thrown like like 5 inches above his head, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be another game like this from Josh where he's just going to be missing these easy throws for
They
first downs.
they I don't think they went 3 and out. I think they scored on that drive. I think that was only the second
Oh,
down
second,
play.
second, yeah. Sorry, but the Singletary pass that just got me, like I groaned.
Yeah.
And then the people around me are like, "Oh, what's wrong?" I'm like, "If he's missing passes like that, it's gonna be a long day."
Yeah, I think the nice thing about that pass is honestly for me that goes in the book as a drop and not a Josh miss as much, which I feel a little different about those. If I mean he put way too much on that ball for what it should have been. Like it should have been an easy dump pass and just a
Hmm.
completion and let Singletary run.
Yeah.
But yeah, he put it close enough to him that it was catchable and it was just like, oh geez, dang, why'd he not come down with that? That was annoying to see on the first drive. But yeah, no, it's just like I said, nice to get back to having the efficient short passing game again. Um, and if the team plays like they did today, they can play with anybody in the league. So
Hmm.
yeah, I guess closing thoughts on the Bills and football teams in terms of where you see them compared to the rest of the NFL at this point.
For the Bills, I think the Bills are still in the upper echelon tier of teams, offensively and defensively, if I dare say so.
I agree.
At least at this point in the season. And for the football team, I mean, it's week 3. I've got 3 like points of view for it, but it's just these 3 games have been so weird for them. Like that week 1 game, they kept it close with the Chargers, but they had to run with 2 QBs in that. And then the Giants game, they win that, but that was way closer than what I think anyone was expecting it to be. And now this game, so it just seems like they're going down from like that week 1 performance, and I'm hoping that they bounce back, but I do agree with you. I can't really say that I see them winning the NFC East at this point in time now.
Yeah. Uh, that's pretty tough for me to see. And I doubt that the second place team in the NFC East is going to be a playoff team.
Mm,
Just with what I think about them, so they could be right on the outside looking in, which would suck for the Washington football team fans. But yeah, that's where I see them. And Bills probably still a Super Bowl contender if they play like they do today. The funny thing is with how the offense looked the first 2 weeks of the season, it's not a guarantee. But let's hope this gets it back on track. Are you all
Yes.
set?
Yeah, I think we can cut this here.